Alrighty, I think we're live. I'm gonna say we're live. Been trying to figure it out for a few minutes. But yeah. Well, thanks for joining if you are here and we are in fact live. It's good to have you here. I'm Brian Funk. I'm gonna talk about live performance in Ableton Live today. Yeah, we're live. Okay, it's coming up. Cool. First it's gonna show me a commercial. But we are there. So today is going to be all about live performance in Ableton Live. This is a Zoom conference. Right now, Luke is with me. It's your boy. He's a member of the
Hey,
Music
yo.
Production Club. What's up, man? Thanks again for hanging out and joining.
Of course, of course.
So, yeah, you might be like the question asker here if you like, or as I said, you can just hang out too if you want.
Yeah.
But we're doing these like weekly music production club meetings. Trying to I would say it's in the beta phase right now, trying to figure it out and get it right. But we're gonna do one today on live performance. We did one with Tommy Z from Making Music for Brands, which was really cool. He talked about a Mitsubishi commercial he did, and that was a lot of fun. So let's see here. I've got my live performance set up here, so I'm going to go through it a little bit and show you what it's all about. I just want to put a little thing on the screen here because I have a live performance with Ableton Live video course available that is totally free. Normally it's like $50, and because we're in all staying home, it's for free. You just got to put in the code stay home. And you get this. It's got 2.5 hours of tutorials, 31 videos, a performance template you can use, and a bunch of audio and MIDI effect racks that might be helpful as well. I think it's pretty handy, and it might give you some ideas on how you can get your own live performances going. Let's move that out of the way here. And what you're looking at now is my live performance setup inside Live, as well as you can see the controllers that I'm using. And you really only need to worry about the push, the APC40, the launch pad, and I have an OP1 set up. Everything else is just on the table, looking pretty, not doing anything. I should say that this live performance set is the product of many years of work. It's evolved, it's grown, so expect that to be the way this works for you. Your setup is going to change and evolve over the years and time. The best thing you can do is just kind of get going. Just start as basic as you can and just add things as you go. The more you actually try to play live and fool around with it, the more you'll realize like what you need and what would be nice to have, and then you'll start adding those things to your performance setup, and eventually it grows and becomes its own thing. I think of mine as like a living creature. It is alive, and it is got its own personality and life, and it's different from anyone else's, and anyone else that does live performance does it in their own way. So don't be afraid to go your own way and take things that you like about this and leave things you don't. The thing I'm trying to be able to do is have some clips playing that have like parts of my songs. I'm going to be arranging and mixing them as I go. I will also be able to add effects and kind of improvise. I've got a mic for vocals and some effects for that, and a live instrument I can play on the OP1, and also on the push I can play some other like plugins or my own racks that I make. So the idea is I want to be able to sing, I want to be able to play some instruments, I want to be able to play some backing tracks, and I want to be able to be loose and not have to commit to any sort of arrangement, so I can kind of feel it out as I go. I use everything inside Session View. I don't have anything inside of Arrangement View. Arrangement is just for recording what I do in Session View. So I can record any performance, and if I wanted to, I could edit it and change it and fix it and release it or something. Okay. Well, let me break it down for you here. The first place I should probably start is I set up some limitations for myself. The first big limitation that I had was the table I'm using. I have a table that's it's like a DJ table, and it can actually be raised and lowered by height. And my first decision was whatever I'm going to use has to be able to fit on that table. I'm not going to have more than what can fit on that table. So I've settled on using Push, APC40, Launchpad, and OP1. And next to that is a laptop with an audio interface. And that all fits nicely on the table. There's plenty of room. It's not too crowded. Having that limitation just gives you some framework, because you could keep adding things to your live performance set, and it can get huge and big, and that's totally fine if you wanted to, but I wanted to keep mine somewhat reasonable. So another limitation I had was I wanted to be able to carry everything in one trip. So I wanted to be able to go from the car to wherever I'm playing in one trip with all my gear. A big reason for that is I live in New York, and a lot of the times I'm playing in New York City or Brooklyn, and it's very hard to find parking, and I'm usually going alone. So I don't want to park 10, 15 minutes away from my show, have to bring half my gear there, leave it there, and then go get the rest of my gear and hope the stuff I left alone is still there. So that was another consideration. So I have to be able to carry everything. And now some of the other limitations will come up as we go through our set here. So if we look inside the Ableton Live session, you'll see on the left-hand side I have 8 tracks right here, all in dark blue. And that's where my clips are. And I have my songs kind of in little clusters here. So this little cluster here is one song, and it's kind of color-coded here. And I've got the BPM, I've got the key it's in, so that I know like what I'm doing, where I'm going to be. And I can launch each little section of the song just by play button. And now we're listening to one section of the song. We can go to another section here. And I can switch between sections just by what I'd really be doing. It's not my computer, but right on the APC40. The next section. And I'm moving between different parts of my song. I can add parts from other sections. I can stop my drums and maybe bring in the drums from the first part we heard. Give it a faster feel. And whatever I want, really. Got this part here. Take other parts out. So it's a pretty cool way to be flexible with all the different sections of your song. And I don't have to commit to any sort of arrangement. I can fool around, go from the verse to another verse to a chorus and mix the parts. And in that way, it allows me to sort of let the song evolve naturally. So they happen more organic. I'm not forcing it into any sort of arrangement. I'm just allowing it to happen on its own. And that's the first 8 tracks, all different clips. The reason I have only 8 tracks of clips is because if you look at the APC40, there's 8 tracks that you can launch clips on. Now, I don't really want to be moving this box here left and right to get to additional tracks to launch them. I just want to keep it there because in your live performance, it's very hectic. There's a lot going on. It's easy to lose track of things. So I don't want to be moving this over here, then I come down and I get lost and I don't know where I am. So I never have to go left or right. I just go up and down. And that set me a limitation that I'm only going to have 8 tracks worth of clips. And these tracks are arranged kind of by instrument and I guess frequency or pitch, maybe you might think. So the first track is all drums. And on each track, all these tracks actually are all audio. So everything's bounced to audio. If you look at all these clips on all these tracks, they're all audio clips. On the first track are all different types of drums. Drum there. And if we scroll through different songs, it's all different drum tracks. So I always know that no matter what, whatever's on track 1 is going to be drums. And I kind of follow that through. So we got percussion on track 2. So anytime I launch something on track 2, it's some kind of percussion. that's crazy, like video game sounds, high-pitched noises. This one has hi-hats and a clap. It varies, but it's usually some kind of drum, percussion. Sometimes it's even full kits, but it's just a variety of percussion. Next, I have bass. Everything on this track is bass. Bass sound, bass sound up here, bass up here. So everything on there is bass. Track 4 is like low mids, and that tends to be like keys or pads or things that kind of hold down like a more foundational role. Usually they're playing chord progressions. That can vary though from different tracks, but that's the general idea. Just a bunch of chords. Then I move into things more like leads and melodies, really. And it just kind of goes up in my mind, like in pitch, really, frequencies. What's like down here, I'm in the low frequencies, the bass frequencies. Now I'm in the mids, and then I get higher and higher. And here, this one's just called Moss, because this is just like kind of like extra little noises and candy sounds. And my final track is called Sample Mic, because on this track I can record anything from my mic that I'm speaking into right now, right onto that track. So this is kind of like the core that I work off of. And these are all the different songs. Luke, okay with you right now? You're
Yeah.
gonna be my like barometer of if I'm explaining this well or not, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm just like surprised right now that you keep scrolling down and it keeps going. I'm like, oh wow, you weren't kidding. That's years worth right there.
Yeah, yeah. And like the cool thing is though, I can keep adding things in. So again, it didn't start like this. That's about how far it goes. But I can always add when I have a new song, I just like add a couple scenes and just put these clips in there. And I kind of use the same format. It does limit you a little bit. Like I've got 8 tracks of clips, and technically you might even say 7 because I leave the 8th track open if I want to sample my mic. So
Yeah,
sometimes some of these tracks have more than one element on them. You can think of them like stems almost, I guess.
yeah,
But this just keeps me from having to scroll across the screen.
yeah. No, because that's definitely like useful. I was like thinking, I'm like, oh god, like I don't want to like scroll all the way left and right, and I didn't even think about just like limiting to my 8 squares on my
Yeah,
launch pad.
yeah, the launch pad's like that too. It's a good idea. Um, that's some kind of a philosophy I keep with everything. Like these knobs on the top of the APC 40, you can have 3 different banks of them, and that can be great. You know, that's what 24 knobs of MIDI mapping you can do. But I don't do that. I just have one map, one set. It's on this pan section here. I could go into my sends and all the user and whatever, but I don't, because I don't want to get lost. I want to know that when I test knob, it's going to do what I think it's going to do. I don't want to be on the wrong page, turn a knob, and then realize, what happened? It didn't do what I expected. And then I go back and I turn the knob, and next thing I know, I changed something that's going to get all weird in the next song. By keeping everything on one page or one bank, that's not a problem. Even on push I use only for playing like instruments, sequencing drums and stuff. So that never changes. I don't launch scenes on push. I don't do any mixing on push. I just play instruments on it. And my launch pad is just for like samples and stuff, which I guess I can get into that stuff now. So I kind of talked about the pads on the APC 40. Do they launch these different clips? If I go into this next section here, now I'm into the push. And in here are really just any kind of instruments I want to play live. So I've got a drum kit that I can add drums. I can sequence drums on this if I want. Sometimes I just use it for fills. I'll turn on the repeat mode and just kind of like, I might have like, let me go back to that track I had before. It this part, and I can just kind of, since repeat is on, I've got some nice like 16th note fills. So that's something kind of handy I can do. And then I can just move with the arrow keys on push, or even better, I can just press the buttons up here to select my different sounds. So I've got, like I said, right now I had drums. These are just like some percussive things. Then I've got, I should let you see the instruments on here. This is my Nintendo rack. Samples of a Nintendo. And it's got an arpeggiator on it. So I can play that at any time, and I can just move over this. I can always switch these instruments out, which is what's kind of fun. Right now I've got this was the Winter Winds Snow Seal. This is actually made with samples of a seal, believe it or not. But you can make some crazy sounds using some of the macros. But anyway, and then up here, what do we got? Some plucks that you can just throw in. Here, humming. Luke, is that you humming on there? Kind of
No.
feedback. Oh. Actually, I think it is, man. I just clicked mute. I can't unmute. Won't let me unmute you. You might have to click that mute button if you want to come back on. I'm sorry. But anyway, we got like instruments I can play on the push. Then if we move over, I've got another track here called Launchpad or LP Noises, and that's all the stuff on my Launchpad. And these are mostly like transitional sounds, like white noise. There's some video game samples that I use as like transitional noises. And then there's just some samples from like
I'll be back.
movies that I throw in there.
Ooh, yeah.
Something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
So those are just like fun little things to throw in. I don't know how legal they are to use in a recording, but in a live performance, whatever. It's fun. So that's really for the main part what the Launchpad's for. I'll get into some other things that are useful for that. I've got the OP1. I can play that live. What's nice about having the OP1 is it's so small and it's got so many different synth engines. You can do a lot of cool sounds with it. I use it mostly for like leads. And the next 3 tracks are my mic. So I got my microphone input, which just runs right into this microphone effects channel. And on this effects channel, I have a few macros here where I can turn on a delay. And as I turn that delay, it's also affecting the timing of it, which gives us those like kind of like pitched old school tape delay sounds. So it's kind of fun to turn this to get like cool effects, or just leave it, and now I've got a delay going on for when I sing. Next is a reverb, and what's also going on with this reverb is a low pass filter that's cutting out some of the high end. So it makes me sound a little more distant, like I'm in a cave or something. I've got a beat repeat, and as soon as I turn this knob, the beat repeat goes on. I think that's right over here. So I can catch like a phrase. There it is. And next to it's the pitch of the beat repeat, so I can move that around. I've also got an auto tune, which is mapped to this button. And I can now sing in tune. And then this button here is also mapped to an auto tune effect, which changes my format of my voice,
which makes it sound like this. So now I got this new effect on my voice for a different
kind of personality in a song. And You know, they're all wrapped up in here. For that auto tune, I'm using Isotope's Nectar. I think it's Nectar 2. The thing I like about Nectar 2 is it has this tracking mode, which is like a low latency mode. I don't think they have that in Nectar 3, unfortunately. But if they do, let me know. I'd love to be able to use that. Nature is just a track with some clips down here of nature sounds. Now, I gotta tell you what, I kind of forget. Here they are. Okay. So let me stop the music. So I've just got them mapped to some buttons on my launch pad here, so I can like turn on some birds and just have those kind of playing. I think I got the volume from here. So this is great for like in between tracks. I end a song, and now you're in the forest with me, or it's thunder. And it's great for setting moods and stuff. And I can just turn those off by clicking it again. All my clips are set to toggle. I like this is the launch mode toggle. That allows me to turn it on and turn it off just by pressing the button. Normally, trigger is the default, which will just relaunch a clip when you click it. But I want to be able to turn the clip off when I launch it. So I see it's lit up on my launch pad. I know I got my thunder going. I can either turn it down like this or turn it up with this knob on my APC 40, which is just controlling the track here. Pretty good lightning strike right there. I can turn that off just like that. I like nature sounds for setting like a mood, giving your songs like an environment. And it's the thunder is pretty intense when you're coming out of a PA system too. So it can be powerful for effect. Okay, so let me move this over. Now this section here is kind of key to my setup here. These are, I guess you would call like bus tracks. I'm just routing a bunch of audio to it. This one's called Drum Dummy. The reason it's called Dummy is because I had originally used this as like a dummy track, which allows you to set up clips that have automated effect parameters. And then you just launch the clip, and then the effects affect the sound, whatever sound's running into it. I don't actually do that anymore. You know, as I said, my live set has evolved over the years and grown and changed. So one thing I've taken out of it was the drum dummies, like the dummy clips, just because I wasn't using it that much. I kind of prefer to turn the knobs myself. And sometimes I add things and I realize it's more than I need. And my set has grown from a little baby into what it is now. And there were times when it was more complicated than it is now. You know, you try something, you like it, keep it in. If not, take it out. And now I free up some knobs, and that's just one thing I've taken out. But to explain what the drum dummy is, if you look at my drum tracks, actually both of them, the drums and the percussion, the audio is routed to drum dummy. Same thing here, drum dummy. So that means that whatever drums, and maybe I'll play some drums right now. A good beat. Maybe this beat. So we got this beat. It's being routed into this audio track. And on here, I have some effects. So I'll start here maybe with the filtering. These are mapped to these knobs on my APC 40. So right now I'm filtering out the high end and adding a little bit of reverb also. Or maybe not. Maybe I took the reverb off. I did. Took the reverb off. I'll tell you what, we'll just take that out of there. So, no reverb on the drums. But this is nice because I can affect only the drums. So let's say I launch, let's go to this track so you can actually, let's do the actual song here. So here's the track. By turning that one knob, I'm filtering out my drums. So now there's essentially no drums now. And I can bring them back in if I want. Maybe use. Now they're back in. Got kill all the other sounds. I've got an auto filter for high pass as well. Again, very useful for transitions. And that only affects the drums. The other thing I've got for the drums are these beat repeats. So if I open these up, put you away, you're a little more complicated. I've got a whole set of beat repeats that are at different time divisions. I've got quarter notes, eighth notes, a variable. I've got those, I think, are my triplets. Yep, 6th note, 12th notes, 16th, and 32nd. So I've got these mapped to buttons on my launch pad. So if I press this button, you'll notice I'm activating the quarter note beat repeat. Just like that. So let me play those drums again. I just caught a clap right there. I let go. That's kind of a way I can do drum fills. Now let's look on here. 8th note. Got the kick drum. And I could go again, moving along. This is 16th notes. So if I'm playing my track here, just let you bring in part of the track. Got some of our track here. I can do like a 16th note drum fill right here. Just by holding down that button and letting go. You notice I missed it that time. You gotta time it, right? So there's a performance aspect to this. And if I'm really crafty, I could do things like little fills like that by just holding down the separate buttons. So all of my drums get routed to these different effects. Let's see. I'm gonna stop that. The same thing goes for these drums up here. So these are the drums that are on my push, right? So let's see, let me just select this clip and I'll just start putting in a drum beat. Throw some claps. So same thing happens. These are routed to drum dummy. They go over to here. And again, I can apply the same effects. Filter it. And we've got our drum fills right there. So it's really nice to combine these. Just like that. I'm just holding down a button, turning that knob. And that's where, like, I guess, like, the skill of this starts to come in, as you start realizing, like, I can play this, turn this knob, do these knobs together, they work well. That's kind of where I guess practice comes in, but you just kind of start to learn what works well. Let me stop all this stuff here. And so that goes into the drum dummies. Hey, I hear you again there, Luke. Welcome back.
Yeah.
There was like a feedback or something. That's why I muted you. And then
Oh yeah, I have a mini fridge down here, and it's old. It makes a lot of hissing.
You should sample that.
I've been thinking about it for a while now.
Yeah, do
and
it.
I don't know why I haven't. I think I get more frustrated by it, and then I get like, I don't think about sampling it anymore.
Right.
But
sometimes when like stuff's just not working like that, you know, it's obviously very frustrating. But I'll like say, okay, well, this is just what I have to work with, and I'll embrace it. Like sampling it would be like one way. You can kind of make it work for you a little bit.
true. I might actually do that when we're done with this. Just sample it up.
Yeah.
If it
drop
acts
that
up
into a
again.
sampler, and you know, you got a playable instrument now, and then now you like your fridge. It's collaborating. All right, so let's see. So these drums, they all go to the drum dummy, right? The same thing is at play with my instruments now. If you look at my live instruments, they're going to a track called Live Instruments. So when I play this, let's record that just so I have something to work with. Whatever that is, just so we have something to play with. Now I go into my live instruments track. This is going through these effects. Now I've mapped these 4 effects to these 4 buttons on my APC40. Now, the reason this is handy is because these always, I've got like a low pass with a reverb on it. I can hear the reverbs on this one. So it's a low pass that, as I turn it, I lower the frequency, but I also increase the dry wet on that reverb right down here. So it creates this like distance feeling. And I think I did something similar with the high pass. It turns on a delay. Turns up the dry wet. So you can hear the delay kind of. And then there's a, what do we got next? Whoops. So that would be the redux and the chorus. So this knob is just turning some chorus on and also downsampling with the redux. And then there's a delay. And as I turn this delay, you'll notice over here, I'm also affecting the time. So we get those pitchy things happening. No, we don't. I don't have repitch on. What's the matter with me? There we go. I love that sound, so I use that all the time. And all of my instruments, no matter which one I play, is going through those effects. So let me kill that, because that's starting to bother me. If I have my sound here, I can turn the effects over here, and it'll affect that sound now. So I know whenever I'm playing an instrument, I can kind of like two-hand it like this. And I'm affecting everything just like that. Oh man, I'm not paying attention to the chat in YouTube. Oh, okay. So let me acknowledge you guys. Thanks for showing up, Steve. What's up, man? Yeah, you don't want. I think if you can avoid the scrolling, it'll save you a big headache. Picture when you're playing live, like it's chaotic enough just what you're trying to do, and you've got people too, and they're going crazy. They're running around, probably bumping into you, spilling their drinks on you, whatever. The lights are going crazy. I mean, anything you can minimize as like a potential disaster is a good idea. Eric, catch the replay. Okay, man. Yeah, catch the replay, and also don't forget that I got the video course on my webpage, brianfunk.com, and all that. Ghost Boy, yeah, send me a song. Sure, I'll check it out. And Yusuf, yeah, Yusuf agrees. Luke, you should sample your fridge.
Oh, yeah. I just read that.
You've
Heck
got
yeah.
homework, my man.
I'm going to sample my fridge tonight. I'm actually going to try to make a live looping set with my fridge. That's my homework for the month.
That's a cool idea. Okay, so that's what happens with my live instruments. They all go in there. Also, I should say the OP1 also goes into those effects. So I've got my OP1 here. So I can also screw around with my OP1, which is fun because the OP1 also has its own effects on here. One I particularly love that is probably hard to see on here is this cow effect. It's kind of like a repitch delay plus some other madness. But I can also play with that, so that's one thing that really makes the OP1 really nice. It has its own effects, and I'm also running it now through Live's effects. So we talked about where the drums are going, where my instruments are going, and now if you look at the music, these tracks, I guess 3 through 8, they're being routed to a track called music. And that again is over here in this like orange area. And that's music right here. And actually, not much is happening here. I'm really just sidechaining it to the drum dummy. So when I play a track, like, let's listen to this. This sounds a little more busy. So it's actually not really doing much on this particular song. Sometimes it depends on the volume of my drums, but we're compressing, we're sidechaining the music to the drum. It's listening to my drum dummy. So it's kind of a nice way to compress everything. Bring it back up. It's probably the reason it's that high. From there, if you notice, drum dummy, music, both go to this track called All But Live Vocals. All But Vocals, or Vox. That's what I think it's. So my drums and my music all go to this. And this track, let me play something for you. Let's see what this is. All right, I'll use this as an example. We've got something kind of similar. So before, I was able to filter out just the drums. Now I've got a filter for the whole track, so all the music is getting filtered. And same thing with this delay. Kind of the cool thing about this is like I turn it all the way up, and now it's just like stuck. So this gives me time to like stop those clips, and I can then say move to like the next track, and I can slowly bring my delay out, and I'm like transitioning to another song. So now I'm in like a new track, and I did that by turning on my high pass until it gets into like a wash of high pass. I'll go to another song. So we'll just launch this. I kind of forget what song this one is, but so now I can bring it back. Everything's filtered. Maybe some noise. Bring everything in. And the same thing happens here too. I've got some beat repeats to kind of do like. So there's some other fun little effects. You can put anything you want on there, really. Okay, so that all goes into All But Vocals, and then that goes to my master. You'll notice the live instruments, they go directly to master. And the reason I wanted this was that my vocals are the same way. They go straight out to the master as well. But I wanted to be able to do like crazy things like, I'll wash this out, and still be able to talk. And even if I want, I could play over it. Stop those. And then I could transition into another song. Okay, it looks like autofocus got messed up there. Okay. I will talk next about my vocals. How does that sound? There's a lot of things to talk about, I guess, but so I'm moving left to right, so we'll go to the vocals. So my mic comes in on this channel. I have a gate, which is sometimes useful if my music coming out of the speakers is coming into my mic too much. That always happens a little bit. You're gonna have to deal with feedback some. I often will turn monitors away from me a little bit. It's sometimes you got to play with it a little bit, and sometimes I need to turn on a gate so that when the music's not loud enough, it shuts my mic off. Right now I don't have that. A lot of times I can get away without that. Then the mic goes into the mic effects. I talked about this actually, didn't I? I did talk about this, huh? I don't know.
Yeah, with the reverb and delay and all that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't mention the vocoder track, which is
No.
kind of fun. Um, and I have a video on this. Maybe it's probably the best way to check this out because it goes into all the mappings and stuff. But I have a button here that I can just press this button. It will mute my mic so you don't hear my mic. It will turn on this synth, which is being where is it right here? So this channel here gets turned on, the vocoder gets turned on, and it's listening to the vocoder track here. So by pushing one button, essentially, I turn everything that needs to be turned on and turn off everything that needs to be turned off, and I select this track so that it shows up on my push, and then I can actually just vocode. So I might be doing like, let's see, I'll kind of demonstrate, I guess. The track I use the vocoder in, be in here. So I can just be playing this track here, and I press this button. It'll cut out my mic, turn on the vocoder, and select it as the track. And then I press it again, and my mic is back on to just sing and talk normally. But it's so handy to just have that as like one button. That is, I guess, a lot. Let me see here. Benjamin, you said, only thing confusing for me is how you're using the Launchpad. Is it being used in user modes to just toggle clips effects, not surface control? Would this be user mode? So my Launchpad it doesn't say user mode. The old one used to. It's not the clip launching one. It's the one right next to it, which plays MIDI notes. So you would use these often to control drum racks, and that's actually exactly what I'm doing. On this track here, it's listening to my Launchpad. I have it set up to this drum rack, so I can play these sounds.
Excellent.
So those sounds are all being triggered with the Launchpad. So the Launchpad is really just being used to send MIDI notes to drum racks. I don't know what that mode's called, but it's button 6. I think 7 is user mode, and 8 is mix. Maybe it's user 1, and then 7 is user 2. I kind of forget. I think that might be it, though, user 1. But it's the one that sends out MIDI notes that you can play on any drum rack, to answer your question. Okay.
How did you set up that vocoder channel? Like for playing through the analog? That's kind of cool.
Okay, so I could go into that.
Yeah, I need to know how to do that.
All right. So the way the vocoder works, I've got it on this chain here. It doesn't necessarily, I kind of just did this to keep it neat, but it doesn't have to be in a rack or anything. I've got it set up as the carrier is external. That means what's like a good way to put it? The sound that's going to trigger the synth that's going to mix with my voice is going to be something else. Because if I have like noise, for instance, now we got to just switch the chain here.
Yeah, when I talk, it's like Monster Man, right?
Yeah.
Because
it's hard to talk hearing that because it's it's just affecting everything within this one track. When I set it to external, though, I can then select which track's audio I want to use to blend with my voice. And my voice will only let you hear that synth in this case when I speak.
Oh.
And on this track, it's just an analog. Nothing fancy here. I don't even know why I have it in a rack, actually. Doesn't need to be there. But there it is. It's just nothing fancy even about this. It's just a pretty simple patch. And depending on your patch, it'll change the way the vocoder sounds. What you want to do when you have a vocoder, though, you don't want to hear your voice. You want to hear, you don't want to hear my mic clean because that'll kind of defeat the point of doing vocoder. Well, that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's not true at all. Sometimes you might want to hear the clean, but in my case, I don't. I just want it to be like totally robot voice. And there's a couple things that just need to be switched on and off. I need to unmute this. No, I don't think it needs to be unmuted. I just need to turn on. Hey, what did I do? I messed something up, I think, by clicking around here. I changed the.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, so I mapped that button to turn on the vocoder and to turn on the analog. And the other thing it's doing is selecting this track up here. So it's also selecting this title. And the only reason I'm doing that is so that push then highlights the notes that I can play. So if I'm on a different track, just say here, and I press the button, you'll notice push changes. You'll notice you're not going to see this turn on because it's going to change the channel, but it's also going to turn on this analog. So I'll go back.
Analog is now on. Vocoder is now on too. Let me go to that track.
So it's basically just activating what needs to be activated and switching the track all at once. There's a specific video in that course that talks like about one button vocoder or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it'll show you like all the mappings and stuff. Yeah, it's really handy because it's so easy to switch to it, and it's a fun thing to do live. It gives you like more of a palette to work with your voice.
Yeah, no, I didn't know you could use I actually I'm still like fresh with Ableton. I started on FL and switched to Ableton like 6 months ago. But I didn't know about like the chains and everything. I just discovered chains and like how you could put I was messing around playing like drums on like half my keyboard while having half my keyboard as like a synth. Because I set it up as a drum rack.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is cool. I was like, Ableton definitely wins in every sense.
Yeah, well, it's great that you can do that. Like you can have that ability to just switch between different sounds on one keyboard without having to do anything. Just by the way you have the chain set up, the key selectors and all that. Save you a lot of trouble, Again, like if you're playing live, if you have like a big keyboard, 88 keys or 49 or whatever, the ability to say set 12 notes aside as like drum sounds saves you the trouble of like another controller.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I like originally did it. Like when I figured that out, I was like, I only had like my launch pad and my MIDI, and I was like, how there has to be a way that I could play like drums and like my keys at the same time, and I found a way, and I actually stumbled upon it. Like I just like randomly was like, oh, if I could set this reverb in a chain, I wonder if I could throw a drum rack, and I was like, oh wow. It's like I can.
That's a big part of like the spirit of I'd say developing a live performance set too, is just try stuff, like if it works, great. If not, like whatever, it's not a big deal. I could just show you guys like my live performance set is a good, I'd say 10 years old, easy. And I don't even have them all. I archive them, put them on hard drives. But this live set project, these are all different evolutions going back to, I guess, 2013. And I've got other ones on hard drives. So they're just like different ways of, like this one is no push. I was playing without a push at one point, and this was a specific show, and this one had a looper in it. Um, just save a copy, save as, and rename it, and try an experiment. And if you don't like it, go back to the one you were just using. That's you have to be. You have to not fear breaking anything. You're not going to break anything. You're going to just learn what works and what doesn't, and what you need to keep and what you need to change. So it's cool. Yeah, like you said, like by just exploring and finding the chains, you've unlocked a really cool feature.
Yeah.
Let me talk about how I like to do drum fills. Because it's one thing to like just switch between tracks, but you gotta make them like feel like they're transitioning. And I'll maybe like just demonstrate real quick. Well, let's see what would be like. This will be a very simple song to demonstrate on because there's not a lot going on. So I've got this track. It's going. Very simple drum part. I've got a whole bunch of drum fills down here. And these are just clips of toms, snare drums, rolls, all kinds of drum kits, random, crazy stuff that are looping. And I can trigger them just with a push of a button. And I can even combine that with some of my other effects. Now I make like little transitions, so it's really nice for going into other parts. Now I'm in a new section. So let me show you how I'm doing that. It's a little feature called follow actions. So follow actions are down here. And what follow actions do is follow your command. So you tell the clip to play a certain amount of time, and then after it does that, to do some sort of action. So it will follow the instructions that you give it. So if we look at these clips here, I've got follow actions enabled. Now, if we just go to like something like this, there's no follow action. This is where you determine the follow action. This says play it for 1 bar and then do this action. And there's no action right here, so nothing will happen. It'll just play it again. But over here on these guys, they play for, what is that? Is that an 8th note, 16th? Oh, I forget all of a sudden. 16ths. So it'll play for a 16th note, and then it will go to any clip. And by any clip, it means any of these clips that it's touching. So this little group of clips. So I'll click this, and you'll notice it goes to that one. It goes to that one. And they just bounce all over the place. And these are just different drum fills. I'll give you an example. We'll go to this clip here, and we'll just turn off the follow actions. So no action. And just listen to it. So that's just this. I just recorded that into audio. So you can make these and then just put little clips in here. We'll put this back so I don't forget. And let's see what we got here. This is a shorter one. We'll turn it off. No action. It's got a kick in there. And a snare drum. Let's put it back to any. Just all kinds of stuff, really. But what's happening is they're just zapping around between these clips, and it's got this like feeling of like as if a drummer had a, I don't know, dozen different tom drums and snare drums to just bang on, and they all just zoom around. They're set to launch to be quantized at every 16th note, whereas most of the time you're going to have it global, which is usually 1 bar. So that means I can have like this beat playing. Normally, the next beat will wait until the next bar, just like that one does. But these guys get played on the next 16th note. So it's like an instant fill. And then I can go back to my beat and just trigger it, and that'll come back on the next bar. The way I have this set up is, if we go into our MIDI mapping, this button right here is mapped. That corresponds to this key on my launch pad. And now it just randomly goes through these. I just hit that button and it randomly triggers it. Then I can go back on my APC 40 and go back to my beat. Comes in on time. Drum fill, back. Drum fill comes in almost instantly. That one was a snare drum roll. So this one here is a snare drum roll. There's no follow action. It just, again, triggers on the 16th note, and it's mapped to this button. I can just bring back in my other kit. So what's nice about this is I'm working on this song. Might start some transitions. Now they're my new section. Add more. Stop those guys. So I'm just using really, if you think about it, this is just like having a bunch of random drums that get triggered as soon as I hit a 16th note. And I can come right out on time, just relaunching whatever drum beat I was on, or the next drum beat in the song, or a new song, or anything like that. When I combine that with my beat repeats, which I have here, I got a lot of options for drum fills. And one of them is actually just a mute. So that button is just a utility on my drum dummy. I think it's right here. It just turns on and it's just mute. Just mutes it. It's just hitting that mute button here. Boom, no drums, and I can let go and it comes back on. So that's quite a lot of action really for your drums. A lot of different ways you can do fills. This collection of drum sounds works well for these songs, but say I'd made a new live performance with new songs, I might change out the drums sounds so they're not as like video game cartoony sounding, and then I got all other kinds of drums there. Yeah, let's see. What else do we have? What else do I need to mention? I mean, I think that in a nutshell is the live performance set. Over here, I've just got a track or two so that my launch pad can light up. So this is something kind of cool if you have a launch pad. If you notice, I press one button, all these lights just kind of scatter around. Just kind of, I mean, you can go kind of nuts with these, but I just wanted it to like flicker a little so it looked like I'm pushing something when I push it. So this track receives MIDI from my launch pad, MIDI from launch pad, and then it also sends the MIDI back to the launch pad. So it's going through this like arpeggiator, and the arpeggiator is what's changing the notes. And the launch pad lights up when it receives a MIDI note. So really what I'm just doing is converting whatever I played into this arpeggiator, and it's scattering a bunch of notes around. Just a bunch of arpeggiators doing all kinds of nonsense. There are some good videos on YouTube about launchpad light shows, and you can go wild. Like you've probably seen people like Midi or some of the other Launchpad artists that make like really fun to watch Launchpad performances. I'm just taking like a sliver of that, just so that when I hit something over here, it looks like a little more fun. But for the most part, when I'm playing, people can hardly see what I'm doing anyway. So I don't know how important that is, but it's fun. I don't even know what this one is. What is this? Oh, this is my resample channel. So this is a good one to have. This one's just set to resampling, so that I can just record whatever I do. So I can have this up down here, just recording. So everything I play gets recorded on here. Everything that comes into my system gets recorded into 2 tracks. So I can listen back to my performance. I think I forgot to say one thing. If you notice on my 8 tracks here, not only are they set up so that I can just launch clips, but they're also set up that I can record clips to them too. If you notice, the inputs here are set audio from drums. So I've got my drum channel here, and if I play drums, you'll notice on track 1, we're getting some input. So I can very easily record some drums to things. I would just arm this track, and then anything I play on here gets recorded there. And, usually I would do this with, I lost it. Where'd it go? Wherever that track is, it's recording somewhere. Gotta go find it. Could be anywhere. There it is. So on this track, I've just recorded that and a lot of silence. So that's listening for my drums. These other tracks, like this instrument here, these are all going to these tracks marked live instruments. So any one of these tracks can now record an instrument I have set up here, going into my live instruments. So those tracks are listening to this channel. So it's receiving my instrument I played after it gets processed with whatever effects I have over here that we went over before. And I can record stuff here. So this way I can like create stuff on the fly too. So I can have my songs that are set up here, and then I can jam too. So a lot of times I'll play a song and I'll kind of jam in between. That's what a lot of this stuff up here is. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to get, but a lot of the stuff I do up here, just little jams that I might do between songs, just kind of build something. So I just build that stuff like in between songs. And sometimes these become songs themselves. These jams just start growing into songs. So in this way, like I can write music inside this live performance set too and record directly in there. And this, to me, is where the magic starts to happen a lot when you start developing your own project with your own setup of your controllers. It starts to become your instrument, and you can write music directly in there, and you can just add it to your performance set, or you can drag the clips in later. Totally up to you, but it becomes like this way you're used to working. And it also gives your tracks some cohesion too, for better or for worse. They start to sound the same, which means like if you're trying to release like an album or an EP, you've got this like unity to your tracks because they're all kind of made the same way. And then if you want to make like a new EP, you could delete everything, you change out your instruments, maybe even switch out your effects, and you've got new stuff to work with. I'm trying to think if there's anything else key that I might have missed. Yeah, I don't really think so. I hope that in going over this, it's not overwhelming. It is a lot I'm throwing at you, and like to see a live session that has probably, I don't even know, how many scenes do you think this is? It's got to be over 100, right?
Oh yeah.
It's intimidating and overwhelming, but this didn't start like this. It started out real small, and you might not need all this stuff. I might not even need all this stuff. A lot of times I take stuff out. I used to have, I think, like 8 tracks here of instruments. That's more what I do just because I've got, if I line push up just right, I've got like 8 tracks that are visible on the buttons here that I can switch between. It's kind of nice to be able to just like playing this instrument, then I'm like, all right, drums now. Now I'll go to this sound. So it's kind of cool to be able to switch between them that way. But you might not need that much. What I'm really just trying to do is to be able to do some vocals live, to play some instruments live. The instruments could really be anything. Like I've got, these are all just like Ableton racks that I've made, but they could just as easily be hardware. Like I've got the OP1 right here. That's doing its own thing, and it's running through these same effects. And that track is, since it's going into my live instruments, you'll notice it's also feeding the inputs of these audio tracks. Just something worth mentioning, I always keep the monitor off on these tracks because I don't want to hear I can hear the OP1 already because it's coming out of these tracks, the live instrument track. So I don't need to hear it in here. I don't know why you're on auto. Move you over. And usually what I do is I just leave these all record enabled. And this is more if I'm like writing, but I'll record enable everything and I can jam around and then just record things in there. And I've kind of finalized them. It's a cool way to convert everything to audio kind of on the spot. So this doesn't even have to be like a live performance thing. You might just set up a bunch of MIDI tracks and then like some corresponding audio tracks that you can record clips into. And in a way, this is like using live like a giant looper, almost like a looper pedal for everything. I used to use a looper pedal on this track so I could capture whatever I was playing here into this live instruments track, and then I could run it through effects separately. That's fun too. I don't know. I just stepped away from that for the moment, you know. I wouldn't recommend trying to do everything all the time. Sometimes it's nice to just cut some stuff out and not have a billion possibilities all the time, because I think that's where we run into issues with making music, is we have too many options. So I think, I don't know if anyone in the YouTube has any questions. I don't know if you have any questions, Luke, in our music production hangout.
I think like the only question I actually have is like, what would you say to start with? Like drums, like that type of like idea, like, or like, would you say to just cut up your own songs that you've made and separate them in that fashion?
You could cut them up. I don't know if it was apparent by me showing you how I work, but I kind of work almost backwards, I think, from a lot of people, because most of the time you write your song in the studio, right? And then you prepare it for live performance.
Yeah.
But I kind of like write mine in live performance land and then start to figure out how the song goes while I'm performing. So like all of the songs in here that you see here were originally written in instruments here. And I just recorded them onto these tracks. So they weren't really full-fledged ideas. They were more like jams. And the nice thing about this is, like, if we take like a song like this one I was just focused on. This is Red One. Where are you? You're way up here. Okay, let's hold shift to move a little bit faster here. So this guy, I launched this. This started out as a jam, and honestly, it still doesn't even have a totally concrete format to it yet. But it's it's like something I can just sort of play around with, you know. I wonder if I have this in the right key. So I could be like singing along with my brand new song, trying ideas, moving along. Got this new part, trying it out. We'll see how it goes. Drop the drums, bring in a fill. I wanna go. That's one thing that shows. Do a little drum fill right here. So like, just kind of like trying stuff.
Yeah.
And if I'm smart, which I wasn't there, I'd be recording this into my resample, and often what I'll do, I'll just play for like on a song like for half hour, just fool around, and then I'll go back and I'll listen to it, maybe like in the car when I used to have to drive places, and I would just listen for like maybe like phrases I like or changes I like, and then that starts to like solidify a little bit. And for me, in that way, I'm kind of like letting the song become whatever it wants to become instead of like forcing it into arrangement view, okay? Which is a great way to work too. Like I think that's something I should do more of, honestly, is, you know, setting up markers. All right, this is the verse, this is the chorus, 16 bars, whatever. But by just playing on these songs and feeling them out, sometimes you like stumble across things you wouldn't normally do. And it can be like pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I do have a vocoder on here. It's a lot of fun. Diego, thanks for asking.
Diego had a question about the vocoder.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, for me, like I write in the performance mode, and then it's like after I've performed these songs, then I have to solidify them and put them into structure.
See, like that's kind
Which-
of like what I actually have like wanted. That's why like I wanted to start live looping. Wasn't even to like play live. Was just I want to use Ableton like to to perform out
Songwriting
like
tool,
tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, and this way it's like it's a songwriting tool. You don't have to be like as deliberate,
Yep.
and it's nice too, because like, you know, like when I was switching parts here, I just used my drum fill system that I have set up here. Like it helped me get into the new sections. Maybe I might decide like down the road I want different drum sounds as my fills and different white noises for transitions. But at least with this setup, I don't have to create a track, add drum fills, then find a white noise, and you know, like that's technical stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm trying to do is more like I'm just feeling it. I'm just trying to lose myself and forget about it and just play this instrument, almost like I was playing a guitar or something, and I'm just enjoying that part of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome. Live is great for that, to use it as just a songwriting tool. And if you set up a few controls that will do things that you want it to do to help make your tracks move along, it can be really nice.
I'm learning. I gotta start mapping out a lot more. Cause like I didn't know that you could what I saw you earlier were mapping like a filter with the reverb and all that. Like I didn't know you could map two things at once.
Oh yeah, you can map I think 128 things to one knob.
That is crazy.
if we were to, if we look in my, this is my MIDI mapping for this project.
Yeah,
It's
I
honestly
expected it to be
not a,
longer.
I was gonna say it's not a terrible amount, and even like these first 8 right here, these are for my volume faders, and the only reason I mapped the volume faders down here is so that they can't go above 0, because normally these faders go up to +6 dB, and then that causes a problem with like headroom and
Oh,
stuff.
that's amazing. That's a
So I
great
just
idea.
limited it.
That's a
Same
great
thing with the
idea.
master.
I'm
The
actually going to
master.
do that.
Yeah, it's cool to do. Like my master, I turn it all the way up. It only goes to 0 instead of 6, because then otherwise I'd be like trying to move this thing just to the right spot. Like, is that it? I don't know. But now I just crank it all the way up. It's at 0. This is the MIDI mapping. So this is like controlling most of the macros and turning things on and off, some of the buttons. But then within like your macros, yeah, you can go nuts with how many things you map to an effect. I like that it's on my, I think this one, this like idea of with a delay, how it kind of like got this thing. It goes all the way up so that all you're hearing is, what I've done is totally taken out any input to this delay, because it's filtered out all the inputs, so the delay's not even hearing anything anymore. And I guess I could turn this up to probably 100% or 99 if I wanted to. And then I can just bring it back. And, like, it's a cool way to like switch between tracks even. Now I can stop those clips. And then here. Maybe like you don't even like realize it. I've already switched to the new song. Maybe I'll turn on like my rain, my little nature sounds. Create a vibe. Now I've turned the drum filter all the way up, right? So like you won't hear drums. So I'm gonna trigger my snare drum roll. You can see it's happening, but because it's filtered out over here, right here, right? So I can like maybe do like a transition. And now I'm in my track. Rain noise. Maybe bring my rain out. Now I'm playing my little song. I can start jamming on it. But that's because the delay and the high pass are all connected. Gives me, so I switched from the end of this song to the beginning of that song, and like it's nice and smooth, and I like that, like in a performance, to not like finish the song and stop and be like, all right, thank you very much everybody, hope you like that song, I got another one coming up now. It's kind of fun to just like start playing and go for like a while before you even say anything. And I think it makes it very immersive too, instead of like starting and stopping all the time. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just something that I'm kind of into. Yeah. So I don't know if there are no questions. Maybe we'll kind of wrap this up then.
Yeah, I guess like the whole thing that I've learned is just like experiment with it all. So like,
yeah, don't be afraid. You're not gonna break it.
yeah.
Oh, I know what I want. The reason I was showing you my MIDI mapping was all of that is like, when you MIDI map something, that's just within this live set, right? So if I start a new live set, all that MIDI mapping is gone. So you didn't break anything. You know, you mapped all these controls, you changed what they do, but now you open a new project and everything's back to where it started. So experiment with it, have fun. Like normally these knobs at the top of my APC 40, which I use for all those effects, they're pan knobs, which could be useful, but I don't really have, I decided I don't care if I can pan things, because you know what I can do, and you can kind of see it in here. You can put the pan automation, that's on this track actually. On this clip, I've just panned it over in the automation. So like, I don't know, like for me, panning isn't a very exciting knob to turn. So I decided I was just overwrite all the pans. And if I open a new live project, my pans are all back. I didn't ruin it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And part of the reason I've got all of these iterations, which I think I put it away, but all these iterations of my live set here is because I'll save as, you know, I'll go up here and live save as and make a new session, and then I've still got all my MIDI mapping in here, and I can delete things. Like maybe I'll just clear it all out and just start from scratch. Because the beauty of that is I could start from scratch, and then you could always go, let's see, where am I? Current project. I could always go inside here, right? I can open up our live set, and then I could just drag the clips from my drum tracks. These all show up right here. I can be like, oh, I want that one. Come here. Whatever this happens to be. Sometimes it takes a second. Oh, I can't put that there. You go there, your MIDI. Okay. So, like, this clip is just, I guess, this clip is just like a kick. But it's just kind of cool, right? Like, you can just take these things and bring them in. They just take a second to load. Now I got the, so whatever this was. That looks like a follow action. So it's easy enough to just go in here and then bring your clips into your live performance set.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that's the biggest takeaway you got out of this is to just experiment, I'm really happy about that, because that was a breakthrough for me when I realized I'm not going to break anything.
Yeah.
And the only way I'm going to actually move forward is if I take some chances and try stuff out.
Yeah.
Don't ever expect to like sit down and like, you know, build this from scratch. The only way you're going to build this is by playing, fooling around, be like, oh, okay, cool. Well, now I wish I could affect the filter on my drums and not the rest of the music. Okay, nice. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Diego.
Control Z and Control Y.
What's Control Y do?
What is Control Y?
I know Control Z is undo.
I don't know what Control Y is. Huh. I don't know.
Here's the answer.
It's a secret shortcut.
Yeah, Yusef got the sauce.
That's the one that makes your song a hit on Spotify.
It's like the sound goodizer.
Yeah.
And what is comping? Diego asks.
Diego.
Is there a way to?
There is a way to do it. It is a little clunky, but there is a way. What would be a good way for me to demonstrate this right now? Let's see. All right, so. All right, I'm going to just record this into session view here. Gotta do this. Let's make sure I'm not recording anything I don't need. That should be fine. All right, so I'm going to just record that part. Let's do 8 bars. Probably only going to need 4 though. Okay, let's go back to arrangement with that little button there. And let's just do 4 bars. All right, we got 4 bars. So I resampled that. That was smart. We don't need that. Let's see, my mic in will be here. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just loop this. Command L will loop. And we'll turn off record here and here. Just trying to see. That's a little distracting. So I've got my little area I'm going to loop, and I'll just record some vocals. I'll set it up with
My proper effect for this song. I know you move in slow motion because it's the only way you go. I know you move in slow motion because it's the only way you go. I know you move in slow motion because it's the only way you know.
So, there I'm back. I recorded that a number of times. Let's go back to auto here. We got this clip here, right? So this is how you're going to do comping in live. It's not ideal. But it's a way. I'm going to duplicate this track a couple times. I think I did 3 takes, right? So you'll notice that the whole thing got recorded, but it's only looping the last part. So I can go over here, bring my loop brace all the way over here. So now I got the first one. Then in here, I can go and do the same thing essentially. We'll get the second 4 bars. Bring this over here, bring you over there. And I'll do this one I shouldn't have to do anything for. So now I should have 3 different vocal takes. I know you move in slow motion because it's the only way you know. Okay, so I don't have my auto tune on. You'll have to forgive me. But let's just say, like, you know, in like Logic, it's really easy. You just highlight what you want. It's beautiful. It's elegant. But now we can kind of do the same thing. I might say, like, all right, I like the first 4 bars of this one, so I'll just delete these. And then maybe this, I like the next 4 bars on the last one. You know, I'm just chopping up. Maybe this, right? So now I've got a comp of this whole thing.
I know you move in slow motion because it's the only way you know. So that's
a comp. I could then bring them up here and, you know, put them all in the one track so it's convenient, and then maybe do like a little crossfade just to smooth things out a little bit. But that's how you can do comping in live. It's so our end result would be
this. I know you move in slow motion because it's the only way you know. And there's our comp.
So what happens is when you loop record, as we did here, we loop recorded, it will loop only that last portion of your recording, but it does get everything. So you just have to go in here and move your loop brace around and do it. That, if, you know who has a really nice tutorial on this is patches. I'm gonna see if I can find it for you guys real quick before we go. Patches, comping, Ableton. The guide to comping in Ableton. This is beautiful. Where's our comments? So that link right there will bring you to this page. Patches is awesome. Dan does great work, and his tutorials are beautiful. And he'll take you through this process that I basically just showed you here. And that's what he's doing. He's chopping it out. It can be done. It's, like I said, it's not quite as elegant as Logic, because Logic really makes it easy. You just unfold your takes and you just highlight the one you want. This is like you have to sort of manually unfold by duplicating, and then you just have to delete them instead of just highlighting. So it's really not too bad once you get used to the process. So it can be done. Oh, Command Y is just redo? That's what it is?
Yeah, it's the sauce button.
Okay, I never ever use that.
Yeah.
I just did a shift, but okay. Sounds good. Have to work that into my workflow here. Yeah, so I think that's gonna do it for us tonight. Luke, thank you for hanging out again. You are a
Heck yeah.
loyal customer here. You make all the
Hey.
chats. It's good to have you. It's good to have someone to talk to while we do this too.
Of course.
And thanks for everyone that stopped by on YouTube, and for some cool tips in there too, some helpful stuff. I hope this has been useful to you guys. I've got, as I mentioned before, a course on this, video course that you can watch over and over again and show all your friends. Available here. You just got to use the coupon code Stay Home. So I tell you what, let's make this even easier for you guys. If you just, I'll give you this link in here. I think if I just write /stay home, I think that ought to take you to the link without even having to, yeah, there you go. So if you follow that link that I just put in the chat, it'll take you to this page, and it's already free, and you can buy it. And look, a lot of people liked it. That's pretty awesome. So, wow, I didn't know that. I did notice this thing has been downloaded almost 3,000 times, I guess, since this free code went in. So thanks for everyone that's downloaded that. That's super cool, and I really hope it's helping, and I'm hoping that once we're allowed to play live music again, which I'm sure will happen one of these days, hopefully not too soon where it's unsafe, but soon enough we'll be able to get out and play live, and maybe we can all have some new music to share with each other and get together, or just do a live stream. That's a cool way to do it too. It's I've been loving doing live streams lately and attending them, because can't see our friends right now, so this is a great way to connect and share what we do. So I thank you for attending. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, everyone in the chat. And I think we will sign it off here, folks. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna stop the live stream. So you guys have an awesome night. Have a great day, weekend, whatever. What is it? I don't even know. It's Thursday. Yeah, weekend.